guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Hellcat build, part 7 here, and this is going to be a few bits and pieces. This one basically I need to do the cockpit, but also want to get this done, and the cockpit involves air scale, and as I've said before, the video on air scale is going to be air scale, and that's it. So this one is all about modifying this this landing gear bay. Now when you look at it here, I've actually put some tape over these hooks here. These little tiny hooks in the bottom, they could catch on something, snap off, so I've put some tape over to protect them. But basically when you look in here, you've got all this lovely detail on these ribs. Just want to check you can actually see what I'm pointing at. You've got all this lovely detail on these ribs and supports, and there's tubing going in there and all sorts. And at the front you've got this lump of plastic. I'll just use a knife to point it out here. Let's get this tape out of the way. This lump of plastic here, which I want to remove because it's not correct. It just looks like a lump of plastic and I don't like it, so I'm going to basically remove it. So the way I'm going to do that is, first of all, get rid of this gap. So you can see there's a gap here. Make sure you can see it. There's a gap between this part and there. You can see there's a gap. So I've got some plastic card here. Again, 10 thou seems to sort everything on this model. So yeah, I've got some 10 thou plastic card, and it kind of wedges in there, but it's not parallel. The gap isn't parallel. It's bigger at this end than it is at this end. So what I'm going to do is actually sand my plastic card. So just going to take a coarse-ish sanding stick. You can see, I don't know if you can see it there. I've just taken away the taper on it, so that it's thicker at the bottom than it is at the top, and then you can see it goes in there a lot nicer. And I want it to just slide in. I don't want it to push in. I don't want it to be a tight fit. I just want it to slide in just like so until I get a nice fit on there. Okay, so that's that. Right, then I'm going to take some of my, actually I use ordinary Tamiya extra thin because it's not so hot as the quick setting, and from this side I'm going to glue it. Only from this side. Okay. So that will be welded on there within a few minutes or a few seconds. Take this away. There we go, that's that in place. So we just give that a little push down, and then we'll give that a couple of minutes to dry, and then we can trim it off. I'll do the same for the other side. So here it looks like the gap is slightly bigger. Now is 10 thou going to be thick enough? I don't think it is. I want a piece of... Yeah, that's too thick. We've got a piece of 0.5 in here. Here we go. I'm just using scraps, you see. Now that fits quite tightly, so what I'm going to do with this, again, is just sand it down. Because when you look at it, you can see from the top it's a wedge, so we have to make a piece of plastic which is also a wedge. Okay, so let's just try this. So it's bigger at the bottom than it is at the top again. So that's fitted in there lovely now. Okay, so that's in like that. So now I can take my extra thin. Being careful around those holes because I don't want it to glue to the spar. I just want it to glue to the plastic card. Give that a couple of minutes to dry. Yeah, it hasn't glued to the card, to the spar I mean. I'm just going to give that a nudge down. There we go. Check that spar still going to fit okay. There we go, that's lovely and tight up against there now. So we leave that to dry, and then we do the next part. And there we go, guys. So you leave it there if you want to. The plastic is in there. I've trimmed it down. I just need to make sure it's all flush now and everything. Obviously when I give it a coat of primer I'll see that. So probably best to give this area a coat of paint before we fit the spar on, because it'll be a lot easier to repair it before than after. And on this side I didn't quite go down far enough with the card, so I'm just going to round that off. I'll use some Mr. Surfacer in there anyway. So right, that's all done, so I can check, put the spar on, put the spar back on, and just check that basically even with the plastic card on there that I'm still contacted on the inner sides here, and I am. So that's the gap filled. So if you want to leave it like that, you can. I'm not going to leave it like that. I want to cut that piece of plastic out and make it look a bit more realistic, if you like. So how are we going to do this? Well, the first thing to do is cut the outside. Don't cut the inside first, otherwise when you cut the outside it'll all be flopping about. So what we're going to do is use my saw, and I'm just going to start by gently using the inner wall of the outside edge as a guide, and just gently cut down and check that I'm not actually cutting into the wall. That's as far as I can go. So what I can do now is take the blade out and extend it. I could perhaps use this one. No, I can't get any further down with that one either, but this one, if you look, it has these holes that allow me to make it deeper. So what I'll do is I'll make that blade deeper and then I'll come back. Okay, I did something there that I've seen Phil Flory do, and it actually works. You have the saw hanging out the end like this. This is the JLC saw, which is an amazing little tool. So that's cut through now, all the way through, and I've actually gone that way. That's okay, I can clean that up and trim that up. Now when it comes to doing this side, we can't use a saw because we're worried about removing all the rivet detail from the inside of there. So what I'm going to use here is a knife, and I'm going to make a line there like that, okay, and then I can just keep going over that line until I get a good groove. Use the saw to get that bottom edge. In fact, you could use a saw, but just make sure you don't go right through. As I just did. Now, luckily I haven't removed any of the rivet detail. I can shave away that with a knife now, shave away this side, and end up with two thin ribs. And there we have it, all done. And I think that looks a lot better now. Let's get this tape out of the way. When you look up in there, you've got the rib meeting the spar rather than that, you know, great lump of plastic in there. So and we've also got rid of the gap. So win-win all round really, for no cost, a little bit of work. How to improve your model without spending any money, that's what I'm all about. So there we go. So what we're going to move on to next. Alright, so with this all done out of the way, I've got some Mr. Surfacer and those little gaps left from those inner parts there, just inside here. So let that dry off, give that a quick scrape down with a knife, probably won't sand it because of the rivet detail, and then that's that done, and I can put those little tubes in. What I'll do when I do the other one, I'm gonna probably find a better way of doing this, because putting these in is very, very tricky. So I think it's probably better to put them in at the same time as you fit these outer parts. But then saying that, if you do the mod I've just done, they're going to be in the way for you cutting. So yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So let's start having a look at this tail wheel area. I had one of the comments made on the channel by a guy. I'm sorry, I can't find the comment again, and I've forgotten your name. I'm really, really sorry, but you made a very, very valid point. Could it be, was the question, could it be that this whole frame is interior green and is built as such, as a frame, and then when they skin it, they paint the inner area blue? Now, I know there's a video on YouTube which somebody kindly sent me a link to on the Hellcat factory with the bit being built, and you can see that as they go down the production line, parts of them were actually painted blue, like all around the cockpit opening, like here, all around there was all painted blue. not master or anything, just painted. And then obviously when they come to spray the whole thing, they just, I guess they just put a cover over the canopy or something and just sprayed up to it to meet it. I mean, it didn't have to be perfect, did it? It was a war machine. So interesting. So what I'm going to do, get my fuselage over here and get this rubber band off, and then take this bit of tape off the front here, and it should all just come apart quite easily. There we go, there's our lovely cockpit and interior there. So we'll put that over, no, I'll put that over here out of the way actually, and then we'll look at this. So we need E38. This is actually the FAA sprue because it's still got the arrestor hook on it. So I'm cross-kitting now. Bad boy. Another sprue did there. And then there's also that 1226. So it's the E39, not 226. 226 is the colour. So that one's going to go in there, and this one's going to go in there. So let's do them one at a time, and we'll check them for their fit. So E39 is next to it. So let's just get that one off the sprue. Get a little sanding stick and just give that a bit of a tickle. We can see it's got an angle on it, and it's also got ejector pins on it. Which is a shame. Okay, so the angle's that way, so we'll slot that in there, and luckily it's such a good fit it stays there on its own. And then what I'm going to do is take the cockpit out to one side, and then we'll try this to see how it fits. So that goes up like that, back end closes in. Yeah, you can see when you look inside, I don't know if you can see it in there. When I squeeze the fuselage together, it's bowing. So obviously, no, it's not bowing. I just grumman. You can see that it's bowing when I squeeze the fuselage together. So that needs to be narrowed down as well. So we'll get that sanded out. Or is it that lug at the top? It's actually not going in properly. So maybe if I just sand the bottom to allow it to go up in. Maybe that'll improve things. And there we go, that's all it was. So now I can squeeze it, it doesn't bend it at all. All that was, all I've done is remove some plastic from this bottom end here to allow it to move down, because when it was sat before it was like that. So that's all I've done. So that's that one taken care of. Now let's have a look at the other one. So we'll take all these little nibs off of here. Sanding stick, clean up. Because somebody did say in the comments that they'd seen that there was an issue with this. So better to find out now. So that's going to go in like that. And that's perfect. That's a perfect fit. There's no problem with that at all. That's lovely. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that like that. There's nothing else to see here, I'm afraid. So if we put that one in there, and put that one in there, there you go, you can put your fuselage halves together and everything is all fine. And then when the arrestor goes in, it's all going to look lovely. It could do with some more detail in there, to be honest. There is more in there if you look at other models, but you know, really when you look up in there, it's going to be a dark hole. so I'm not going to fuss about it too much. Maybe someone will make a resin insert for it or something. That's the sort of thing Profi Molder would do. So yeah, we've got ejector pin marks on there, but they're on the back face, so that doesn't matter. And I think that could do with thinning out a bit on the back to make it look a bit more authentic. So I think I'll get my little ball cutter. So all I'm doing here is I've got this little ball cutter. This is I guess 4mm. Just go in and just in the back of these moulded in holes and just put a bit of a radius into them just to thin them out and make them look a bit more authentic. It shouldn't weaken the part too much, and after all it hasn't got to take that much load. So that's the sort of effect you'll get. You'll get the holes are a lot thinner, so it looks a bit more authentic. Now that would have been like a piece of, I don't know, 18 or maybe 16 gauge aluminum, and that would have been pressed and stamped, and this would have been polished and flanged, these holes. So there we go, that looks a bit better. And I'm just going to go around the edges again with a knife on these areas here, just thin them out a bit, just to make them look a bit more authentic. As I say, it doesn't need to be perfect because, I mean, after all, it's only up in the tailwheel bay. It's not massively visible, but you know, it's nice to show people in there what you've done once it's built. And I'm a bit dubious about taking too much out of here because that's obviously the strength for this. So, but there we go. I'm happy with that. That looks okay. Looks better than it did out of the box anyway. There we go. And then once again, if you want to get rid of any little edges or lumps or whatever, just go around with some Tamiya extra thin, just like that. Job done. Okay, so I'm not going to glue that in yet because I'm going to believe what the guy commented on the channel. It sounds really, really sensible that the frame was built up and then it was skinned and the skin was pre-painted. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. I think he's onto something there, because there is actually a join there, so it would have been this section of aluminium that would have been painted blue. These pieces wouldn't, they've been left green. So there's that bit done. Okay, so moving forward now, basically let's get this area here done. So this is more radio equipment going inside. So bit of clean up on these needed. There's some obviously you've got your sprue nibs around there, and there's also ejector pin marks on the outsides of them. So if you're opening up the belly of your aircraft like I am with this one and you're looking in there, you want to be able to not have to look at ejector pin marks. So what this is basically saying to us here is this part here, E4, is going to go on like so. I'll use the quick setting for this because it's all quite chunky, and then we can just be cracking on with it. Now I normally say about holding stuff and not squeezing it because glue oozes out. I'm not worried on here because this is all going to need a bit of filler and stuff anyway, because I don't want to see these seam lines. And then this one here is going to go on the end like so. As I said earlier, guys, the comments that I'm getting here are really appreciated. Thank you very much. Really good, very good positive feedback about the kit, and also obviously you guys seem to be guys and girls I should say, you seem to be happy with the way I'm doing things, so that's the main thing. And the subscribers are piling on by the 100, so that's also a good thing, because at the end of the day that's what we do this for. So just going to put those together and put some glue around there to hold them. Before I checked on a cutaway drawer, I would have thought this was a battery box, but it's not. It's they're saying it's radio equipment. And then we've got this little thing here which is going to be painted green, going on top of the black item there. Glue that from underneath. That's in. Job done. And then they're going to sit on there like so. But I'm not going to glue those on yet, because I want to get in there with Mr. Surfacer and deal with those seams, so I can rub those down afterwards. So that's that done, and then once that's done, that goes together, and that is going to sit in there like so. Right, so it sits in like that. No, it goes up, so there we go. So it sits on the centre line sort of thing, and then when you look up in the hatch, you're gonna see them there. So there we are. It just dawned on me the other day, actually. Obviously this hatch, they could open that and then a man could stand in there and work, because a man would have been like, you know, sort of this tall, and he could have stood in there and worked, so that would have been a good thing. We've also got that part there, E47. Where's E47? There. So we'll get that one off. Remove the sprue nibs from there. A couple of ejector pin marks on the back which have got a bit of flash around them, so they may foul with the fit. So this is just going to go which way round? I guess it's going to be like that, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put a drop of extra thin on the back here, and then just push this down onto it. And that is apparently a contact unit. Is it a contact unit? Junction box, sorry. This is a junction box, so I'm guessing all the radio cables are going to there, so I'll probably add those. When we put the radios in, the radios will be sat here, so I'll probably add those cables and put some cables down to this as well, just add a bit of interest. So there we go. So what's next? I have to wait for that to dry, put some Mr. Surfacer in it, and that's that for now. Right, if you've seen my FAA build, the Fleet OR build, you'll know that in this area in the tail here, it's all done in sky or duckhead green, and I painted it, post shaded it twice with dark and light. This is basically for the newer modelers. Us old guys have done this a million times. So on this one I'm going to pre-shade it. So just to show you what you do, you get some black paint in your airbrush. This mixed about 50-50. You need a sort of decent coverage with this. You want it to sort of stand out, especially with this because the dark blue is going over it. So all I'm going to do is just check the flow, and then I'm just going to go over all the panel lines, making sure I get on the side of them as well with the black. Okay. And then what this will do, when I paint the blue over the top, the idea is that we can see the black showing through. Okay, so there we go, that's that done. And it's quite a confined area, so you can get in really close and get really fine if you want to, but you know, really just here I'm just showing you the concept of doing pre-shading. A lot of people say it's out of date now. I still think it has its place in the hobby. It's not actually strictly accurate. Most people say pre-shading is false, and they are correct. You don't see aircraft with darkened panel lines. But if you think of your plastic as a canvas, then that's exactly what you're doing, is using it as a canvas to enjoy your pastime and demonstrate your skills, and indeed improve your skills. So there we go, and I'm just going to put a line along there just to add some interest, just in case you can see it. I don't think you will for a minute, but Alright, so we'll do is get the blue out now and put the blue around there. Okay guys, I've got the blue mixed up now, and this is just check. Yeah, we've got a nice thin mix. What I'm going to do is spray this on here lightly, and just so I get a good coverage. Just put a tacky coat down. Make sure coming from all the angles, as Mr. Flory says. You can see there the black is showing through. Now what I'm going to do is just keep putting the blue on, and eventually what will happen is the black will kind of blend in. So I'll let that tack off now. Normally I would be doing this in the booth with the extractor on, but just so you guys can see it, I'm doing it without. And there you can see that rainy texture coming through the paint there. And I don't think the camera's going to pick it up very well. I can see it. There is a definite difference in the shading where the pre-shading is. There we go. As I say, it's very, very subtle, and in this area you're not going to see it anyway, but I just thought it's something that our newer modelers might like to see. Okay, so there we go. That's the tail wheel bay of the US Navy aircraft. And then what I can do here, just as I did on the other one, just check the flow. I've made up some blue of a lighter colour, just added some white to it. And then I can just go along and pick out the middle of those panels in between. You can go even lighter. I've gone a little bit too heavy there actually, to be honest, but you can go even lighter and just let it sort of build up. It doesn't need to be precise. I'm having some troubles with my airbrush today, to be honest guys. It's doing some weird funny things. And there we go, you can see there's the effect there with the lighter shading. It's almost like it's blocking up, and yet this paint is basically dirty thinners, so it shouldn't be blocking up. There you go, you can see the effect there. That's the kind of effect you get with the post shading and the pre shading. Alright. Right, so it's time to do the rest of the painting now. I've masked these off with some masking tape, and I've de-tacked the masking tape to lose its stickiness, and I'm just going to paint this part here first, go around the edges. What I've got here is some Vallejo dark grey. I'm getting tip dry. When you get tip dry, just blow it through. Vallejo isn't the best of paints. Just going to go around all these edges here, across there. It's quite warm today, so I'm guessing that's why I'm getting tip dry. Luckily this it's not that important. It's all up hidden away. It's not very exposed, so it doesn't really, you know, have to be perfect. I'm just going to give my airbrush a quick clean in the end. Should help things a bit. Right, so now we're going to add some pre-shading onto here. Now, because this is the US Navy one, we have to remember that we need to do the all of this interior, but I'm not going to do the cockpit. So I'll do this line here. I guess I have got a sticky bulb on my airbrush, and this paint is too thin, but it really doesn't matter. That is a mess there. I'm having all sorts of problems with my airbrush today, guys. Now, if I was doing the outside or even one of the wheelbays, I would stop, but I'm not, so I'm not particularly bothered about how this looks, because it's, you know, you're not really going to see much of it at all. So there we go, that's that done. I'm just going to do around these, where these bulkheads go, but I'm not doing the cockpit because the cockpit will be completely different effect. This area in here would remain fairly clean and sort of damaged, whereas the cockpit would be dirty and battered about, and you know, it's really playing up big time. It's probably this Vallejo paint that isn't helping. That's awful. This is not a good instructional video to be showing you, but I hope you're just getting the idea of what it is I want to achieve. And what I'm trying to do is add some shading to an otherwise just bare plastic shell. It just saves it being like a, you know, a blob of green when you look inside. There we go. It's not very tidy, but you don't necessarily want tidy. If it's tidy, it sometimes looks too uniform. And now I'm out of paint. I think my airbrush needs a thoroughly good soak in some acetone or something. So let me get some green paint in here and we'll go from there. Alright, so I've got now Vallejo 71010 interior green. And the only reason I'm using this is A, it doesn't stink, and B, this area isn't really going to get touched. We're not going to do any real weathering or anything in here. One of the disadvantages with Vallejo paint, it's convenient to use. It's in dripper bottles. It's sort of pre-mixed, although I thin it a little bit with some Vallejo thinners, but it's not very hard wearing. It rubs off really easily, so you need to sort of only really use it in areas that you're not going to be handling a lot. A lot of people use Vallejo and nothing else and absolutely swear by it. Well, that's fine, each to their own. I mean, some people hate Tamiya paints. You know, I don't know how you can hate Tamiya paints. They're wonderful. My favourite is, I think, is Mr. Hobby, to be honest. But the trouble with Mr. Hobby is it stinks. So I'm putting this on very lightly, so I don't get it puddling. Just put a damp coat on, let it dry, and then we'll go back at it again. You can see the effect of the pre-shading coming through there. We need some more paint here. You can see the effect there of the pre-shading coming through. and you'll just spray the back of it as well, so that makes life a bit easier. Just to try and avoid this horrible grey plastic colour coming through. There we go. And as that dries back, the pre-shading will really shine through. So let's just put those to one side. Put some more on here. I went a bit heavy on there, to be honest. And I'm going to take that off, stick it through there and paint it again, so that we don't get the grey plastic in that hole. Yeah, this airbrush needs a strip. Right, so come along here now, again spraying away from the masking tape. Just going to add some green colour over the top of that pre-shading. Just building it up slowly, not going too mad with it. We'll start to get tip dry again. The dog just come running up with a ball. She wants to go and play. So that's that one done. That's the first coat. So you can see the effect there of the pre-shading coming through. So let's get this other side. Paint. Okay, so I don't know, it's about 60-40 this mix. I'm not sort of, I don't ever really accurately measure my paint. If I'm using polyester primers and stuff on real cars, I'm very fussy with my mix. If I'm using 2K, I'm extremely fussy with my mix. I generally do it by weight. But with model paints, nah, I really don't see the need to be that fussed about it. Okay, so slightly heavier on that side, you can see the slight difference. So what I'm going to do now is come back to that other side and just give this another coat. This time I'm going to go in this direction, and I've got the airbrush angled away from the masking tape. Just in case there's a gap, I don't want to blow any paint up under there. Now you heard that then. Looks like we had a blockage that suddenly cleared itself. It's really strange what this airbrush is doing today. So I can change the angle now, I've run out of paint again. There we go. I'm only sort of half filling this cut. The bubbles are there where I push back. Before I start painting, I always put my hand over and just push back, and then that way, if there's any thinners in the nozzle, you sort of mix that with the rest of the paint rather than get a blast of thinner straight away. So I'm just going to put this down again, another quick layer on here. And I only ever half fill the cup, because when you start going like this, you end up splashing paint all over the model. So I find it, I'd rather have to fill my airbrush twice as much than have to deal with spilt paint everywhere. So there we go, there's that done. Bottom doesn't really matter because we're not going to see it. What we're going to see is when we look up through there. So let's make sure we get the green on this side of the runners, or the stringers should I say. There we go. And I'll probably give that a wash as well. I might even just give it a gloss coat and then some flory wash, and that will stay in all the corners. So again, I'm going to paint this one now, again keeping the airbrush at an angle away from the masking tape, and I'm going to make sure I get the bottom of the stringers. And that should do me. There we go. So now you can see on there, give it another quick coat. get some more green on it. You can see the effect there. And the thing is, if this was an external surface, really that's a bit much, but because it's internal, it's going to be all dark and everything. You really want to go over the top. I may even give this a dry brush with some very light green, and then a wash. You know, like I said, I'm going to give it a wash anyway, but I may give it a oil wash. I may give it a flowy wash. I don't know yet. But basically, you really want to bring this out, because when you close it up, you need to be able to see what's going on. So there we go, guys. That's that. Those parts all done. Let's give that another quick run over. Make sure I got in between all those webs. And on this one, a little blast on the top. And there we go. So I think, while that's drying, I think we'll call that a day. Just have a quick look. This is the guns interior, green H58, and this is the, you can see they're very, very similar, so they would actually be good to use together. In fact, what I might do is like paint the cockpit seat with this, and then paint the rest of the cockpit with the guns, just to give it a bit of tonal difference, just to, because at the end of the day this paint was actually mixed. It was yellow zinc chromate. I have actually been told this in the comments, but I already knew. It's yellow zinc chromate, and they used to mix it 10 to 1, I think, with gloss black paint or something. So yeah, yes, I'm having a beer. Some people don't call that beer, I love it. So right, there we go. So we'll call that a day for this part. It's been a bit bitty, as I said. It's just tying up a few odds and ends. And then I think the next part, part A, is going to be dedicated to the cockpit. Absolutely dedicated to the cockpit. So I'll see you all back for that one. I hope you'll enjoy that. I think you will. If you like aftermarket and photo etch and stuff, you're going to love it. So yeah, I'll see you all for that one. Bye for now.